Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Experience. I am Christian Hunt, and that guy right over there is
Chris Vaca. How we doing, Christian, on this beautiful Saturday morning, my guy?
Brother. It was a bad night to start getting back into sports betting last night for me. We're gonna talk about that a little bit, but still got some irons in the fire, as they say.
Yeah, no, it'll happen, man. I went 1-1. I'm still disappointed. I know which game you're talking about, though. So, yeah, not a good showing for the Arizona Wildcats.
You know, I just got to a point where I was just begging. I'm like, I don't even give a shit if they win. I mean, I picked them to win, and it was a tough night.
No, it happens, man. Like I said, dude, I think we found out what Arizona is. I think we found out what kind of K-State is. And I mean, if you're a K-State fan, you're probably obviously happy. That was a way better game they played last night against Arizona. I would dare to say that Tulane's a better football team than Arizona right now. I know that sounds crazy, but I really think that. I watched that whole K-State Tulane game, and Tulane's actually pretty solid, man. That quarterback they got back there and that running back are pretty good. So they gave everything K-State wanted in that game. I can tell you that one. But Arizona last night, one trick pony, bro.
We'll talk a little more about that game here in just a minute. Yeah, definitely a lot more to say on. Let's do this. Let's pull this up right here for us. Here, we'll look at some news and notes kind of going on around college football at this time. First, Texas A&M quarterback Connor Weigman, game time call. You were saying he was ruled out initially. Now they're saying he's a game time call. What's going on here?
I wonder if this is. I mean, I don't know this for certain. We're not going to know obviously until the game starts. But I heard. It was, I follow the betting market, as you know, and 2 days ago, man, he wasn't going to play. He was ruled out. Now, I wonder if this is one of these things with Elko is like, oh, well, we're just going to wait up until, like what they do in the NFL, why you got to release that information an hour before the game now. I kind of wonder if that's maybe going on here. So they're Florida's thinking that he's going to play or anything like that. But I'll be honest with you, Christian, I'd probably roll another quarterback out there anyway from what I've seen so far.
Year one, what do you got to lose? I mean, we know what Weigman's going to be at this point. Shit, I mean, I can tell you right now, probably will struggle to put up 150 yards and 50% completions, and let's see what somebody else can do.
Right. No, so it'll be interesting. Who's the guy that's backing him up then, or that they might play then? I mean, what's his name?
I don't even know. Marcel Reed. Yeah, Marcel Reed.
Okay.
And he actually put up, I believe it was 361 yards last year against Oklahoma State in a loss in that bowl game. So he didn't do too bad. Again, Weigman could never, apparently.
Yeah. I honestly think maybe it gives that Texas A&M team a little bit of a spark too. You know what I mean? I'm assuming this kid can maybe run a little bit more too. Is he a little more mobile in the pocket than what Weigman is? Or is he just
I would assume so. Yeah. I mean, I would definitely assume so. I mean, Weigman, that's the thing. He's kind of a statue back there.
He is. A lot of injuries, too, to his legs, man. He doesn't move much in the pocket at all, at all.
LSU going to be without Chris Hilton Jr., missed third straight game. Chris, now, again, is that going to make a difference in that South Carolina game?
I know everybody knows who I'm on today. I don't really think it does. We saw what they did against USC. Nussmeier's looked really good this year, man. I don't think he's gotten enough credit so far this season, how well that kid has played. But that Lacey kid they got at wide receiver, I think he's the next up-and-coming great LSU receiver. You saw him against USC, man. He balled out, dude. He's a good route runner. I mean, I'm sure I know who this Hilton Jr. kid is, and he is pretty good. But LSU's known to have receivers, man. I'm sure they got plenty of other guys that can step up and play well. And what I noticed with Nussmeier, one thing I really noticed about him, why I like him, is his accuracy, man. He don't turn the ball over, throws a really good ball. If you can get open, man, he's going to find you.
100%. Like you said, Chris, I don't think it'll make a difference in the game, but they definitely do need to get him back as they start getting ready to get into, they travel on the road to go take on UCLA next week, I believe. So, which, if you don't know, is a school located in Los Angeles, apparently.
Oh, no, I didn't know that. I'm glad. Thanks. What's his name? Deshaun Foster. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to do that all year. Fuck. Anyways, but then they get into SEC play, I believe, after that. So, yeah, they need him back. Colorado State's going to be without their top receiving threat against Colorado. Chris, they need him. Sure, they've got a shot to beat Colorado.
This kid is a potential first-round draft pick, by the way, this Horton kid. He's really good. He had a crazy year last year. That I'm assuming no one, the rivalry here. You remember this game last year, right? That was a really fun game to watch. I bet he plays today, but they're going to need him if they want any chance in this football game. I don't think a lot of defense is going to be played on either side of the ball. He might be the second best receiver in this game behind Travis Hunter. I mean, this kid is really, really good, and Colorado State likes to throw the football. They're going to need him out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. They need all the weapons they can get, all hands on deck for it. We'll talk about the K-State game here in a little bit. I want to address something, Chris, and something we don't normally address on this show. Okay. Cut to me real quick. Thank you. All right. Georgia. As you can see, I'm wearing a bunch of Georgia shit. See that Georgia has had another player arrested for another driving-related issue.
Are you serious?
What?
I didn't hear that. Who was it?
It is a second-string true freshman cornerback, as I believe, one Daniel Harris right here.
Oh, Jesus.
So, what the hell is going on? Now, I mean, we've said that all year. Normally you don't see issues like that during the season, right? I mean, the offseason, you see it a lot more, not just at Georgia, but other programs. It's been very rampant at Georgia. Chris, what's going on? I mean, seriously, I mean, he was driving 106 miles an hour. I mean, what are we doing here? At this point, I mean, if you go to Georgia, they should just revoke your driver's license. Take your keys. You get an Uber. You get your own driver. You get that shit back after you graduate or go to the NFL. Georgia has the lowest graduation rate, I believe, in the country, or the SEC, whatever the hell it is. So yeah,
that's disappointing, man. And I hate to say this is attention you guys don't need because it's been such a problem the last couple of years. And I know Kirby Smart has caught a lot of heat. What is he doing to fix this issue? Because he is the head coach. It falls at his feet. You guys have had people killed. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it's been I don't know what the solution is, man, but something's got to change over there on that. I truly believe that, man. It's sad to hear that this is still going on. And I don't know why you need to be doing this anyway. I mean, have we all drove over 100 mile an hour before? Sure. But I mean, these are college kids playing college football. And you're playing at a high level program like Georgia. I mean, this shit needs to stop. I don't know what the answer is for it. If he's got to start kicking people off the team, I mean, I don't know, man. I even if it's there, and some of these guys have been stars. I mean, this kid you said is a second string kid, right? I'm sure he's a 4 or 5 star freaking corner. I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, that's kind of hard. It's kind of a hard thing, right? I mean, what would you do? If you were the head coach of Georgia
at this point with the deaths and the amount of arrest on this thing happens again, I start kicking people off the team. I would. I mean, what other way do you fix it? Because I'm sure there's who was it week 1 against Clemson other than ETN? Who was it? Somebody else had to sit out that game. I don't remember if it was one of your receivers, I thought, and maybe I'm wrong here, but
there was a receiver that right a few weeks before that game, or I think it was the week of that game or something like that. Rara Thomas, I believe, allegedly got into some trouble. That was non-driving related stuff, as I recall. So we won't go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, I mean, they basically kicked him off the team. But yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, they got to figure something out. Like either I hate to say it, because you don't want to ruin a kid's life over a stupid decision he makes when he's in college. But at the same time, given the history of this, you have got to know the speed limit. You got to know the laws. Whenever you're in a car, you got to treat that like you're handling a loaded gun at this point. If you're at the University of Georgia, so yeah, I mean, I get a little hyped, you know what I mean. But and I live in Omaha, and people can't drive for shit out here. But I'll be honest, I mean, that's probably child's play to Athens at this point.
Well, that's what it sounds like, man. Like I said, this isn't 1, 5, 10 times this has happened. This is up in the 30s. I mean, it's getting out of hand, and it's sad. It is because, like I said, Georgia is obviously a really good football program. I know they're under the spotlight, but at some point, man, I hate to say this. I mean, you just got to start kicking people off the team. You're fucking done. And as harsh as that is to say, because I'm all for second chances, I get all that. But you can't tell me this kid didn't know any better. I'm sure Kirby has had talks over and over. You know what I'm saying? Over and over with the team about this. Because, and here's the thing, when this stuff happens, it gets brought to the national, news light like it does every freaking week with this program. And it's sad. Again, I don't want to see somebody else killed. I don't. I mean, it's a big deal anymore at this point.
It is. lighten things back up. On a side note, I think I have a good NIL sponsorship that the University of Georgia needs to take advantage of. They need to contact Uber immediately and get that to happen.
Oh, shit.
Put them on the jerseys. Let's go. Fucking Uber brought to you by Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to go speed that much, go to a racetrack, man. Go rent a car. I mean, do something if that's what you want to go do.
This is what I said. If I was the head coach of Georgia, this is what I would do. Or I would say, hey, if you get arrested in the offseason for anything driving related, you're off the team. I don't give a shit what the reason is. I don't care. You are off the team. But I would do one thing, and I would say this. I'm going to rent some ranch in the middle of Nevada, you know what I mean, in the middle of nowhere. Get a bunch of cars or whatever have you out there. You can do whatever the fuck you guys want to do out there for like a whole weekend. Drive, be reckless, do whatever, just come back safe. Get that shit out of your system. Come back. Let's focus on business.
I need to do something, man, because like I said, overall, not to sit on this topic, but something needs to change. And I think it needs to be a harsh penalty at this point.
100%. All right, Chris, I'm going to let you talk about this. I'll be right back. Auburn going to switch quarterbacks here, going to Hank Brown. Thoughts on it?
If anybody wants to hear my advice and thoughts on Peyton Thorne for the last couple of years, give me a call. No, this needs to change. It does. Peyton Thorne, we saw what happened last week. I mean, the guy had 3 or 4 interceptions. He didn't look good. He didn't look good at Michigan State. He was terrible, kind of got ran off the field at Michigan State. I know Hugh Freeze needs a better quarterback to run this offense, and Peyton Thorne's not it. Now, I don't know a ton about Hank Brown, Christian. I'm sure you do. I know was he a 5-star?
I believe he was a 4-star. I think they've got another guy. Was it Walker or Walter White or something like that?
Okay. I think at this point, if anybody watched I guess what I'm getting to, if anybody watched the Cal game last week, Cal's not that good a football team. I'm not trying to shit on Cal, but I mean, you want to talk about just piss poor quarterback play. It was god awful. I know Christian knows what I'm talking about. Second half of that game, Peyton Thorne he's not the answer. I've seen so much of this kid, like I said, that he wasn't a Big Ten quarterback. He sure as shit isn't an SEC, type of quarterback, especially at a place like Auburn, where they're used to good quarterback play years prior. They got to make this move, Christian. I said it before the season started. I didn't even think they would even start Peyton Thorne this year. I was actually shocked.
Yeah, I mean, it's going into week 3 now, and he's been benched already. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's time. The Peyton Thorne experiment is over, and they're going to look to make the move. So I'm going to be curious to see. You would certainly think, hey, this has to be an upgrade, but I'll be curious to see what happens and what comes out of this.
Yeah, no,
playing New Mexico, so
yeah, no, I mean, New Mexico doesn't have much of a defense. I expect him to go out there and play well. Like I said, I hope he does, because I'm tired of seeing Peyton Thorne. I really am. Nothing against the kid, but he's not a Power 4 quarterback. He's not. He wasn't at Michigan State either. That's the thing. When you're a quarterback, Christian, I want to ask you this question, kind of, or elaborate on this. When you bounce around from team to team to team, and you get multiple opportunities to start, and we've seen the same thing. DJU is another one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, you're just, at what point in time, it's not the coaching, it's not the team. The kid just isn't that good, and Peyton Thorne is just not that good.
No, I agree with you, right? And that's kind of part of the problem, I think, with these guys that transfer a lot, or you spend a lot of time that you transfer, like the Grayson McCalls of the world, and the Sam Hartmans of the world. You go to the portal for these quarterbacks. They're these coveted guys, right? And if you do that, you want to go young. You want to go a guy that can have multiple years in a system. Like a Joe Burrow is a great example of how that can work, right? Graham Mertz, if he could stay healthy, right? Like, those are great examples of how things can work. The problem is you have to learn a new offense, right? So you have to learn a new offense in college football. You have very limited time to learn that offense. You've got a bunch of other guys that are transferring in late or later, depending on the program. I mean, you have so much that you have to get right. Whereas if you stay at the same program and you're running that same system, the terminology is there, right? It's a lot easier for you. So when the bullets start flying and it's, the third quarter, and you're, at Auburn, and you're taking on Cal, and things aren't going well for you, and, you've been on the field, you've been on the field a lot, but you haven't really been able to do anything. like it starts to really frustrate you. You're thinking too much. Like who was it last year? Justin Fields. They were talking about that in the first couple games of the year, where the offensive coordinator was like, hey, we've got twins left, I right, scat, deuce, motion, 24 dive. And, you're trying to call it. And then he's like, hey, by the way, make sure you look for this safety. He's going to, if he cheats down, then you're going to want to audible to, and you're like, okay, just shut the hell up. I got it. Let me call the plays. Let me do what I need to do. And, but yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. Did you like that, by the way, Chris?
I did. It's very nice.
Good.
He could be a
Start
coach.
our own university over here. We'll compete with a certain hate state university. We'll just it rhymes with that, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll kind of look back at some of these games. Chris, Arizona State taking on Texas State. Texas State, kind of an unrated team, I think, coming in this year, right?
They are, man. And if you guys watch this game, I know, Arizona State's really impressed so far this year. They were supposed to be one of the worst Power 4 schools. They're now 3-0. Texas State kind of handed this game away at the end, though. They really did. This was a good game from start to finish. But Texas State is one of these teams, though, this year. I know they lost this game, but they're one of those like weird, sleepy group of 5 schools that potentially has a chance still yet to maybe make the playoff. They got a really good quarterback, the McLeod kid. I can't think about where he transferred from. I think it was maybe Coastal Carolina or something like that. I might be wrong on that, but good player. Texas State, sleepy team. Arizona State, though, hats off. Arizona State 3-0. That is impressive for a team that was only supposed to win 4 or 5 games this year.
Yeah, and every year there's some teams like that in college football that, there's very low projections. Arizona State, Vandy, you know what I mean, for that matter. I mean, just taking care of business, doing what they need to do.
Yeah, Northwestern last year, that was a team, won 9 games, was supposed to win 3.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, speaking of Northwestern, how about Northwestern State? The mercy rule applied, and a lot of the betting world got pissed because they voided some bets. But yeah, South Alabama took care of business there.
Yeah. Anytime you get beat, Jesus, 87-10. Holy shit. Yeah, that's damn. Yeah, I don't got anything else to say about that one.
It is a long ride back to wherever Northwestern State is.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris, I want to ask you a question here before we get into this Arizona Kansas State game. Coming into this year, not coming in this year, you were really high on K-State. So you look like a savant at this point. So hats off to you, sir. But from what we saw the first few weeks, would you have thought that Kansas would have lost before K-State did?
By the schedule, no, because Kansas, if you know, lost last week to Illinois in a close game, and Kansas lost last night.
Oh, yeah.
So Kansas is now 1-2, but I'll talk about K-State and Arizona. I took on the show, I took K-State to win this game. I bet Arizona the points last night. I obviously looked like a fool there. K-State, I wasn't that I was like overly impressed last night with K-State so much, because K-State did what it needed to do. They went out there, and they are a good defensive team. They got some playmakers, and offensively, we know what Avery Johnson is, man. He's not like an elite level quarterback going to throw for 300 yards a game, but he's really good on the ground. That kid can really run. He's athletic, and they got 2 really good running backs. I thought K-State did what it needed to. The team that I was most disappointed with last night was Arizona. They are a one-trick pony, Christian. McMillan, he is great. That kid might be the best receiver in the country. He might be. Yep. But unfortunately, they have nobody else out of Fafita. I mean, Fafita looks like him every single play. And I'm starting to think that, and I had read before the game that Arizona's other wide receivers, the run game, the defense, dude, God, they don't look anything like they did last year. You guys remember Arizona under Jed Fish last year beat the shit out of Oklahoma in a bowl game. They won 10 games last year, 9 or 10 games, whatever it was for Arizona. They don't even look like a shell of what they were last year. I know that's last year and we lose players, and I get all that, but Arizona's hurting Christian on the defensive side of the ball.
No, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, they do look like, I think overall they'll be okay down the road, but yeah, they got to get something figured out on that defensive side of the ball. I mean, there was one drive I was watching last night, Chris, where they had like 3 or 4 penalties just back to back to back. I mean, and every time they would do something positive and then bam, holding call, holding call, holding call. And it was just like, what in the hell are you guys doing? It was just terrible. I mean, it was god awful, because I also took Arizona in the points too. So yeah, I'm pretty pissed at them, and I took them to win on the show. So yeah, they really shit the bed there.
Yeah, like I said, K-State, I still think, I mean, this is a big win for them. I mean, I think they got a couple decent teams left on the schedule, maybe Oklahoma State, or I don't know if they play Utah yet, but I had Utah and K-State in the Big 12 title game. So yeah, good for me. But K-State, I think, will get better as the year goes on. They're definitely one of the better teams in the Big 12, no doubt. I thought Arizona might pose some sort of challenge last night, Christian. I was dead wrong. Arizona's unfortunately, I think for this year, it's going to be a tough season. I do. And I don't mean that they're winning 5 games, but I don't think they're competing for a Big 12 title. They just, you got to have more than the receiver, man, the McMillan kid. You got to.
No, I 100% agree with you, man. I think the other side of it, too, is K-State, Manhattan, one of the most underrated places to play probably in the country.
Yep. No, it's a tough place to play. Trust me, my Huskers back in the day used to have to play there. They played us always pretty tough when they were at home.
Yeah. So you were right. I was wrong. Obviously, I forgot about Kansas and Illinois last week. Yeah. So they are now 1-2. So, but UNLV, Kansas. I mean,
yeah.
I think you took UNLV in the points, right?
Yeah, I did. I did last night. I got it at 9 or 9.5. I almost sprinkled a little money on the money line for UNLV last night. People don't know anything about UNLV. They really like to run the game or run the ball, and they run this. They call it the go-go offense, I guess, and it's very just fast pace, kind of like Oregon back in the day. And they run the football. And that quarterback, is it Sluka, something like that last night? Not an elite level thrower, but he's their leading rusher, believe it or not. And he made some plays last night, actually, with his arm, too. So I was kind of shocked there. Kansas has got some problems. I was very high on Kansas this year as far as their schedule is pretty easy, Christian. The Daniels kid, we've seen him there. He started as a freshman there. Man, he had a couple turnovers again, or at least the one I know in the second half or before the half ended, and UNLV scored at the end of half. He didn't need to throw, and he had that problem against Illinois is what I'm getting to last week. He threw 3 of them, which cost him the game. And Daniels is a kid that didn't turn the ball over a lot. They got Devin Neal at running back, but they really couldn't get him going that much. It was a weird game last night for Kansas. Kansas should have won that football game. I know woulda, coulda, shoulda. But for a team that I was high on, and Lance Leopold being one of those hot commodity coaches, for what he's done at Kansas the past couple of years. 1-2 to start the year, man. Kansas fans got to be really disappointed. They really do.
He's not careful, he might find himself in a Dave Aranda-like situation very, very quickly.
Yeah. Sad. So.
All right, we'll shift our focus, by the way. Gator Swag, resident Gator fan, coming back. Good to see you. Alabama taking on Wisconsin, Chris. Now, we talked about this game a lot. It's getting closer and closer. I think all the smart money is Alabama should beat the dog shit out of them.
Yeah, this game, and I took the under in this game. I don't know if Wisconsin can score more than 2 touchdowns in this game total. And I'm not shitting on Wisconsin. Anybody who follows the show knows I like Luke Fickell, and I think Luke Fickell needs to get his shit together this year because Wisconsin's come out and beat something called South Dakota, and they beat Western Michigan. They've only put up 27.5 points combined in those 2 games. They got to get something going here. Christian, you know Bama better than anybody. Their defense is pretty good. They got elite athletes all over the field. We know that. But I hate to say this, man. I remember this offseason, Chris, you were talking about it. We were circling this game and saying, hey, Wisconsin, man, could they pull this off at Camp Randall? Tough place to play. Man, from what I've seen from Wisconsin so far, dude, and Tyler Van Dyke is just not enough. I don't even think this game, it might be 14-3 at halftime or something, or 17-7, but I just don't see a way that Wisconsin can stick in this game.
It's going to sound really crazy, but do you think Wisconsin is trying to hide everything they were going to do towards Bama and just be very plain, very vanilla, very basic, and just really put that focus in? Because they didn't play anybody leading up to this. They played a bunch of nobodies. No offense to those schools, but so I almost wonder, it's like, are they going to really open it up? Are we going to see a different Wisconsin in this game? Because I feel like Van Dyke is due for something. He's one of those guys that a few years ago we were talking about could potentially be a first-round draft pick at quarterback when he was at Miami.
Yeah, if that's the case, then they need to come out and show it today, because I honestly think, and I'm going to say this, and I know that we have some really good Wisconsin fans on the show, but it's like they don't run the ball as well as they did the past couple. You know what I mean? Like this year, they haven't been running the ball as well either. So that's kind of a question. They've been throwing the ball a lot more, which I know we wanted to see out of Tyler Van Dyke in this Wisconsin offense, but outside of Will Pauling as receiver, none of those guys are getting open. They had the problem last year where they dropped a lot of balls. I think they led the country in drop balls last year. I guess overall, Christian, I do, I see this being a 31-10 or 31-14 type of game. I just do.
I agree. I agree with you. I hate to say it. I wish Wisconsin could pull the upset here. I hope they can. Well,
Yeah.
not really, because then Cam will be even more locked in for next week.
Oh,
Get there.
on the next week, that big game against Georgia.
I think it's next week. It's either next week or they get a bye week or something. I don't look that far ahead. Looking at another game that's been really hyped up, and I don't get it, is LSU taking on South Carolina.
I put up my betting prediction videos. I just put out a short this morning about this. This line now is moved from -9 to -6 for LSU. It means a lot of sharp money. A lot of big time bettors are on South Carolina in this game. I said this and I'll say it again. I think this is an over adjustment by the market here as far as the betting public in general. I don't see where South Carolina is less than a touchdown, getting less than a touchdown. I don't at all. I know they beat Kentucky, Christian. I get it. But if anybody watched that game, I threw this stat out here. I want you to just think about this for a second. If you ever heard anything like this, it's that South Carolina Kentucky game last week. South Carolina won 31-6 or something like that, or whatever the final score was. They put up 30 some points, right? The total amount of offense that South Carolina had in that game was 248, and they scored 31 points. I've never seen a stat line like that where it was that low of offensive total production, but won and put up 30 points in a game. I just think Kentucky played probably the worst game that they've played in the last 15 years. I'm not super sold on Kentucky after seeing the whole Brock Vandergriff experiment, but to say that LSU, and what I'm getting at, Christian, I'll let you talk here in a second, is that LSU lost to a really good USC team. I think we could agree USC and Miller Moss have looked really good this year so far out the gate. And LSU played a great game with them. They just didn't have enough at the very end there. So I don't see how LSU isn't a 10-point favorite in this game. So I'm not going to lie to you guys. I said it already. I put a lot of money on LSU today to cover the spread, and I think they win this game by a couple touchdowns. I really do. They got the better quarterback, and say what you will about Brian Kelly, I think they got the better coach.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think the Cinderella story here for South Carolina, I think it ends here.
Yeah,
I honestly do. I think LSU should come out and take care of business. You can hype this game to the moon, whatever you want to do, but I don't think it really matters. I think all the people really they hyped Kentucky up all offseason.
Yep.
I talked with Chris about this earlier in the week. I said, I think why this game is getting so much hype and why they're putting all this, money on South Carolina is because we overvalued Kentucky this year.
Yep.
Okay. It's just Kentucky has, they have 2 or 3 really, really great players, and the rest of that team is pretty marginally average. So, take that how you want to. I think South Carolina just clipped them. I think Kentucky was probably honestly looking ahead a little bit, and South Carolina clipped the shit out of them. So,
no, I agree.
Talk about the fighting Mike Norvell's taking on his old school Memphis. Chris, now you like Memphis in this one, don't you?
Yeah, so I didn't bet this game, and I'm not going to because I think it's like -6.5 or -7 Florida State, and it's sat that way the whole entire week, which tells me that the public and betting Vegas is basically, think this is maybe a touchdown game. I mean, Florida State is at home, but I don't really know how much that means because Boston College went out there and kicked the shit out of them last week or 2 weeks ago. I think Memphis, I guess just this is my point. Florida State should win this football game. But people forget that Memphis is one of these non-con group of 5 schools that's been around a long time, that puts up a lot of points, they played a lot of big name teams before in bowl games. I don't think they're going to be afraid here, nor should they be. I guess what we've seen out of Boston College against Georgia Tech, Florida State against Boston College and Georgia Tech, those 2 losses in the ACC, what has told you that they're going to go out there and beat Memphis today? I just, I'm staying away from the game betting wise, but I haven't seen enough.
Yeah, I don't know, because they had a bye week, I believe, leading into this, and so they've had a few weeks now, kind of just this everybody's shitting on them, right? And I think this is a case here where it's Florida State's in a get right moment. If they lose this game, Norvell's done. He's gone. Forget about it. There is nothing he can do going forward that can save who he beats, what he does. There's nothing he could do. If he loses to Memphis today, they start off 0-3. He may not even make it to half.
I like I said, if they do lose this game, boy, I mean, like you said it best, that Florida State's gotten a lot of shit. They've been a part of every meme I've seen college football wise the last couple of weeks. You lose this game at home to Memphis, and this isn't like a Northern Illinois team or something like that. This is Memphis. Like, they're not a bad football team. You know, they're not. They've been known to put out some pretty good quarterbacks and some good receivers, running backs in the past. Like I said, I'm not touching this game, but like, damn, dude, they got to win. This is a must. I can't believe I'm saying it's a must win for a Florida State team now in desperation mode.
Boston College taking on Missouri. Boston College, feel good story there. You got Bill O'Brien, you got Castellanos, or is that how you say his name? I believe the quarterback there for him. Going to be enough on the road. It's the top 6 team in Missouri.
I'm not betting this game either because I think the spread's like 14, and I think that's about right. I am impressed. You want to talk about a team that I am impressed with so far this season is Boston College. They have looked apart, and it's just not because they beat Florida State. It's how they beat Florida State. And Bill O'Brien's been around a long time, coached the NFL under Bill Belichick. He was at Penn State, took over from Paterno when they went through all that shit. Guy's done a good job so far, and Mizzou is probably one of those teams that I would say that a majority of college football people that are smart know that are kind of overrated, right? They got the easy schedule again this year. They started super high as far as rankings go. Might not be a top 5 even SEC school right now, but they are rated inside the top 10. I like Missouri in this one. I do think this game is pretty tight, though. Like I said, Boston College can find a way to keep Brady Cook from scrambling around, the quarterback from Missouri, and somehow keep those receivers in check, a la Luther Burden III. I think Boston College can score some points in this game to keep it relatively close, Christian. That's my take.
I think you said it exactly right, Chris. I think Boston College will keep it close, but I think Mizzou pulls away late in this one.
Okay.
I'm down to Notre Dame.
Ooh,
rough week for the Notre Dame man. Gone into hiding almost, I feel like. But take on Purdue. Gotta have it moment here after last week losing to NIU.
I 100% agree with you. Notre Dame should win this game. This is one of these that I don't know a ton about Purdue this season. I know what they were last year. Man, what would happen, Christian, if Purdue would happen to win this game? Like, I mean, Notre Dame start the year off 1-2 for a team that's supposed to be in the 12-team playoff.
First of all, I would be extremely angry because I came with the points and it was minus 9.5. But second of all, yeah, I mean, I think that the Riley Leonard experiment maybe would see. That's the thing. Leonard's got another year left where he could come back. So
True.
You almost like feel like you're connected to. You have to kind of keep playing him. But I would honestly say Marcus Freeman, like, he's going to have to figure something out. I mean, you're Notre Dame. I mean, I get it. It's Purdue. It's not an easy place to play at, right? But it's also not like you're going to the world's hardest environment or anything. Like, Notre Dame fans have expectations. Like, they want to win. You know, they're like Dallas Cowboy fans, right? They are tired of being second fiddle and tired of being just good enough, but not good enough to do anything.
Yeah, I think I will say this. If you talk about Marcus Freeman, if he doesn't win this game today, there's a guy that you can throw in the hot seat because his time at Notre Dame so far, I heard from all sorts of Notre Dame fans that after Brian Kelly, you know, Marcus Freeman's a better recruiter. He's a better coach. He's a better quarterback whisperer, all this shit. I haven't seen it, man. These guys, you know, that loss to Northern Illinois last week was embarrassing. You got to remember, what was the year before, Christian, or 2 years ago? They lost to Marshall at home to start the season. I mean, at some point when you're Notre Dame and you got these decent recruiting classes and you got these great defenses, I mean, Notre Dame hasn't won a meaningful bowl game, guys, since like 1991. I mean, you know, Notre Dame, you know my thoughts on Notre Dame. I wish they'd play in a fucking conference, but they don't. At some point, dude, I mean, you got to win games you're supposed to. And Notre Dame has got one of these schedules again where they play a bunch of service academies and a bunch of nobodies. You got to win this game today, I guess, is what I'm getting at with Purdue. This is a must-win game for Notre Dame. And I hate saying that week 3 of the year. I never thought I'd see Notre Dame, though, 1-1 right now, to be honest with you.
I agree. A&M taking on Florida. Now, Chris, we looked at this earlier in the week. I think at that time, you know, it was Weigman was questionable, you know, whatever have you. Now he was ruled out. Now he's ruled in. I mean, Does it matter? Does it not matter? I mean, what are what are your thoughts as we lead into this one?
Like I said, I think you're going to see some of that other kid play regardless. I think honestly, if you're A&M, I'm just speaking for A&M right now. I roll the other kid out there. I've seen enough of Connor Weigman. I'm not trying to come on here and sound like I hate Connor Weigman. I don't. But what has he provided you the first 2 weeks of the college football season? He hasn't. I mean, this kid, highly touted, has played a lot of football, should be better. I will say if I'm A&M in this game, I rely on the run and Moss, my running back, and your defense. And as far as this game goes, I know I picked A&M to win on the prediction show or video, I should say. But I took Florida in the 4.5 points today. I think this is a game for Florida. It's kind of a must win for both these teams at this point, because the loser of this is going to get point laughed at. Is going to be what, 1-2, or A&M is what, 2-0 right now. I guess they did lose to Notre Dame, so they're 1-1. Florida's 1-1. These are both SEC schools here. Like I said, right now, the way it's looking, I mean, I honestly think Florida's going to make this a game. Florida could definitely win this game. If they play DJ Lagway, I think would be the better option, honestly. He gives you the most upside there. And Billy Napier's got to win this game. I truly think that you're at the Swamp, too. I mean, Florida fans are going to tell you that. It's at the Swamp. They told us all about the Miami game. So they got to get this win, because I don't think A&M is really that good a team offensively. I don't. I think they got a decent defense, but I think their offense needs a lot of work. And maybe this kid provides a spark today, Christian.
Yeah, maybe he does provide a spark today. I think, like you said, for Florida, the big thing for me is going to be, like, I know Florida's going to be able to put some points up. A&M's not going to have a scrub defense. We know that. But Florida should be able to put some points up in this one. The biggest question to me is Florida on defense, right? Florida on defense. Can they shut? They need to put some people down in the box. They need to take that run away from them.
Yep.
And then let me just explain what they need to do. Very simply, they do not need to get lost in coverage. I've seen that so many times out of that Florida defense. It's like they're thinking back there. There's too many guys that, like, their feet are kind of, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then bam, big play right behind them. So you don't want to, like, let an offense like A&M take advantage of mistakes like that. So if you're Florida, they're going to have to be able to play solid on defense, limit the run, and they should be okay, I think, in this one.
No, I agree with you. Like I said, this should be a really tight game. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and put a ton of money on who's going to win this game, but I think it's a must win for both these schools. And like you said best, a little question marks on Florida's defense. If they could somehow shut down the run a little bit, Florida will win this game. I truly believe that. I do. If they can get enough guys in the box and control the line of scrimmage, they'll be all right.
Here's an interesting game we didn't look at, but West Virginia's taking on Pitt at Pitt. Rivalry game right here, so it's going to be worth something, right? I mean, West Virginia should roll in this one, right?
They're favored by about a point or 2 points right now, the old backyard brawl. I think this game will be close. It seems like it is every single time they play. I like West Virginia, though, in this one. If anybody remembers last week, Pitt came all the way back damn near or whatever against Cincinnati. They were down by a ton, came back, scored a bunch of points. I could see this being kind of a shootout. I really do. I like I said, what's his name? Garrett Green, the quarterback for West Virginia. He's got to have a big game today. They've already been tested, West Virginia has. If you guys remember the Penn State game, they hung in there for about a quarter and a half. I think West Virginia gets the win here, though, Christian. I'm a lot higher on West Virginia this year than I am Pitt.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think West Virginia rolls in it. I saw that bet line come out, and I'm like, did something happen that we weren't aware of? Why are they so low on West Virginia?
Kind of like one of these Alabama Auburn games, you just throw the record out the window type of thing. It's just going to be down to the last drive type of thing.
So that was weird, but yeah, Iowa taking on Troy. I don't know. Iowa in a gotta have it moment. They're gonna have to put up some points. Don't trust it at all. Troy could potentially beat them. I don't know.
Isn't Troy one of those teams last year that had like a really good season? I know they lost some guys that are playing other places as their head coach, but weren't they like a really good team last year for a group of 5 school?
If they were, yeah. I think it was Troy because I think their coach went to, what was it, Maine or something like that?
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the quarterback went over to 2. That's where that kick came from. You're right, from Troy. If I told you right now that I was favored by 24 points right now.
I saw that, and I still could not take it. I couldn't take I did not feel confident betting that game whatsoever.
So yeah, the over-under set to 39 right now, and I was supposed to win by 24, so that means they think Troy's going to score about 10 points in this game. So, yeah.
We'll see, by God. We will see. Here, see who else. Oh, we'll talk about this. There's something else I want to do. Georgia taking on Kentucky at Kentucky, 6:30 tonight. Georgia should roll in this one, Chris. Georgia.
Yeah, and I will say this in Kentucky's defense here. Kirby Smart comes out and says it every time they play him that, you know, Kentucky's one of the more physical teams they play all year. You know what I mean? They do. Kentucky does usually play hard. I don't want to say I'm throwing the game out against South Carolina last week, but does Brock Vandergriff have any little revenge here? You know, your guys' backup quarterback last year. Now he's a starter at Kentucky, transferred, which I don't blame him. Looked like complete dog shit, 3 of 10 for like 40 yards last week. They pulled him. Any chance of Kentucky in this game, Christian, even though they are playing at home? Do you think you're the Georgia Bulldog expert here?
There's a chance, here's the problem. You could make the argument if you're the Kentucky man. We weren't taking South Carolina seriously last week. We were just looking ahead to Georgia. South Carolina still is one of those teams you can run vanilla concepts on because I believe that Kentucky's a better team just from a talent standpoint. I believe they had a better coach in Mark Stoops that even running vanilla schemes, they should come out and dominate them. Right? They didn't do that, man. I mean, their offensive line looked terrible. Vandergriff was 3 of 10 in that game. I mean, they just looked bad, like really, really bad. And defensively, I think they're okay on defense, but they kept giving them the ball inside of their own 50.
Yep.
I mean, Kentucky, they better pray and hope that that's what they were doing and that they sold out and they did everything they could for this game because they need that in order to have a shot against Georgia. I'm not just trying to hype it up because Georgia's my team or anything like that. I mean, just you look at look at this from a non-biased way. I mean, look how bad Kentucky looked last week. This might be a Vandy-like situation from a few years ago where it's 63 to like 3.
Yeah, I expect this. This is what I see it going. I'll be surprised if Kentucky scores more than 2 touchdowns in this game. Maybe they score one late in garbage time, but I expect Georgia to put up 35, 40 points like they normally do with Carson Beck in that offense. I really like that kid at running back. You guys, is it Frazier? Jesus, man. Yep. That guy might be the next Nick Chubb there, or DeAndre Swift. I expect Georgia to control the clock and just even if Kentucky won against South Carolina, I don't know if it really matters in this game. Like I said, I know people are going to tell me Georgia, hey, they might be looking ahead to Bama here, but Georgia's too good of a team, Christian. I think Georgia could roll their second string out here and they'd still win. I do. I'm not sitting here trying to, meat ride Georgia, but just from what they've done so far this season, they've looked really good. And Georgia's already been tested for a half against Clemson, and we all saw what happened the second half of that game.
And don't let Chris lie to you. He told me during that game, he said, I'm the biggest closet Georgia fan ever. And it's okay. We'll expose the truth here. It's a safe space.
Yeah. No, I love Kirby Smart, though, as a coach. He's one of my favorite coaches. I always gravitate towards coaches. But, no, I just wish we had some Big Ten teams that would look dominant like Georgia has so far this year. There's not a single one I've seen where I'm like, okay, like we saw what happened in Michigan. Ohio State, I know the scores look impressive, but they really haven't played anybody yet. And in Oregon, well, we'll talk about them later. But, my God.
I want to just bring this up for a second. We don't have to cover the game or whatever. Nebraska ranked inside the top 25. Yep. Feels good, doesn't it, buddy?
Yeah. When I saw this, everybody was texting me when it came out. Couldn't believe it. I don't know if I love it because it's like I kind of like being off the radar right now. You know what I'm saying? We beat a Colorado team that isn't very good. I mean, we did what, and I want to talk about that for a second, if you don't mind, Christian. I haven't talked about Nebraska at all this week. I've had a lot of people reach out to me wanting to know my thoughts. I was disappointed in the second half. We didn't score a single point. A lot of that was because we did have some big plays and just some stupid ass penalties that didn't need to be committed on those drives. I was impressed with the defense. The only way Colorado scored a touchdown this game was off that block punt. Got it at about 35. Sanders made a nice throw. Sure. But I'm just, if I'm Nebraska, they didn't play a perfect game against Colorado. They didn't. The first half was nice. But as you know, Christian, football is 2 halves. And this week I expect, and I'll talk about this real quick, is Nebraska, I believe, is like a 4-touchdown favorite in this game. I expect them to go out and do what they did to UTEP. I expect, maybe 35, 40 points in this game. And I don't want to see Northern Iowa get over 10. I'm not going to celebrate wins over Group of 5 and FCS schools, but, I expect Nebraska to come out today, play a little bit better, clean up not the turnovers, but the penalties as well.
Yeah, I want to say a couple things on that. First of all, when this is over, please remind me. I have to show you something here. It's Lasso. There's a thing. Spark that. And he said, two halves. Sorry, I just thought about that when you were like, it's two halves.
Yeah.
Second of all, this is a weird spot for Nebraska. You guys haven't been this, I would say, this level of excitement. You haven't been in the top 25 in a long time. Like you said, they need to come out and handle business tonight. Don't let this be a situation where Northern Iowa turns into, because Northern Iowa, if I remember, they have an okay program.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
They do.
the worst in the world. Don't get caught sleeping looking ahead. Basically is the main point there.
Yep.
So they need to take care of business.
Yep. That's where I'm at. I expect Nebraska to be dialed in one game at a time, one play at a time. Sounds cliche, but go out there, play a cleaner game this week. Do what you're supposed to do. You're a 4-touchdown favorite. Go out there and win by 30. And we'll worry about next week when it gets there. That's what I want to see Nebraska do. And don't let Northern Iowa hang around for 3.5 quarters. I don't want to see. I will be very disappointed if that happens.
We'll take a look at Colorado. You talked about Colorado a little bit here. They're going on the road to play at Colorado State. That should be an interesting game. I mean, especially if Horton can play in that one. But I look at Colorado. I mean, the way that they lost that game, I mean, they just got manhandled. I think they should come out and they're going to take that personally. I would think so, and they're going to try to come into this game and they're going to try to blow Colorado State out of the water.
Yeah, I expect Colorado to put up some points in this one. I do. I expect them to score well over 30 in this. My problem is, though, Colorado's the same team it's always been since Deion's been there. They don't play any defense either, so I expect Colorado State to score. I think the only way Colorado is going to win games this year is by trying to outscore the opponent, and I think they do win this game today. I think they're a touchdown favorite right now. Horton does need to play for Colorado State. If you don't know anything about this kid, he's one of the better receivers in the country. But Colorado State doesn't have much of a defense either. And I expect this game, like I said, high scoring, but Colorado's got to play better this week, and they will. I mean, that's just Colorado State don't have near the defense Nebraska does by any means. But, Shador's going to have to make some throws. I expect Travis Hunter to go off in this game and Jimmy Horn. I do. They didn't stat line last week didn't look real good for Colorado, obviously, but I expect them to get back on track here. And, I would love to see Colorado State stay in this one, Christian, but I do think Colorado runs away with it late.
This is a game that, we were talking about a little bit this week, and that's UCF taking on TCU, 6:30 game tonight.
Yep.
Interesting little game.
Yeah, me and you were both relatively high on Central Florida in the Big 12 this offseason. I think Gus Malzahn's got something coming or brewing down there. I really do. I think that they're a team that is not bad, and they've continued to improve in his couple years there. And TCU, I watched TCU play one game this year. It was against Stanford. I think it was like a Friday night game, week 1. Their defense is about as bad as it was last year, Christian. Stanford actually moved the ball all over them. And I expect Central Florida to win this game. I know they're underdogs in this game. I actually took the money line on Central Florida today. But I expect Central Florida to go out there and put up some points in this one. I do expect it to be a close game, but I like Central Florida here.
If Central Florida does not win this game and TCU wins, remind me, never bet on the Big 12 ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get you. I'm with you, man. Big 12 is always what it is, man. We always know that. It's a dart at a dartboard every week. You never know.
That's pretty well it, Chris, I would say. Well, 40 minutes till kick, so let everybody kind of get back to their Saturday here. We'll kind of wrap up a little early today. And Chris, any closing thoughts here?
No, nothing. Like I said, probably not the most interesting week of college football as far as big time matchups go, but we got another weekend of college football nonetheless, so I'm pumped about that, Christian.
Absolutely. Well, we hope everybody has a great weekend. Be safe. And remember, as always,